For this example, we're going to use the tangent, sum, and difference formulas. They're asking us to find the exact value for the tangent of 285 degrees. 285 degrees, that's not a special angle that I know of from the unit circle. So I need to split this number up into two values that I know of that I can use to simplify this expression, okay? So when I look over here, I've sketched the first and second quadrants in the unit circle, and I've labeled the angles. This is 120, 135, 150, 180, just as reference. And I try to combine these values to see if I can get 285. So when I look here, 150 and 135, that makes 185. And these two angles are special angles. So that means I can rewrite this expression as the tangent of 150 degrees plus 135 degrees into two angles that I know from the unit circle. And now following the addition formula for tangents, which is this one here, it says that when you have a tangent with an addition of two angles, it will be equivalent to this. So let's go ahead and simplify using this formula. So this will equal the tangent of u. Remember, your first angle is u, your second angle is v. So tangent of u, that means tangent of 150 plus tangent of v, that means tangent of 135, everything divided by 1 minus tangent u, which is the tangent of 150, times the tangent of v, Okay, and this expression looks a little bit complicated, but we'll get through it. So my next step is simplify all of these values so that I write the exact values. Tangent of 150, here's 150. The tangent of 150 in quadrant 2 is the square root of 3 over 3. And make sure to apply the proper sign. The tangent in the second quadrant is negative. So this is negative square root of 3 over 3. And I have a plus. Tangent of 135, here's 135. The tangent of 135 is 1. But since it's in the second quadrant, it's going to be negative 1. Everything divided by 1 minus the tangent of 150, which we already wrote here, which is negative square root of 3 over 3. And I wrote it in parentheses so that I don't confuse that minus sign with the negative I just added, times the tangent of v. So that means times the and I wrote v here. I'm sorry, I should have written 135. I'm sorry about that. Tangent of 135, which we already know is equal to negative 1. Okay? So let's simplify this. In the numerator, I have square root of 3 over 3 plus negative 1, negative square root of 3 over 3 plus negative 1. That means I can join these if I find the common denominator, which is 3. So to do that, I multiply 1 times 3 over 3. And you end up with negative square root of 3 over 3 plus negative 3 over 3. Everything, same thing here, I end up with 1 minus, and then negative times negative, that's going to give you positive. And square root of 3 over 3 times 1 is just square root of 3 over 3. Okay? So let's continue. This is pretty long. So here, I'm going to join this numerator. Since they have the same denominator, I'm going to join it. I'm going to join the numerator under the same denominator. So I end up with negative square root of 3 minus 3, everything over 3. And in the denominator, I have a fraction and a whole number, so I'm going to multiply this by 3 over 3 just so that I have common denominators, and this becomes 3 over 3 minus square root of 3 over 3. Again, I'm going to join this under the same denominator, just like I did in the numerator. So negative square root of 3 minus 3, everything over 3, everything over 3 minus the square root of 3 over 3. Okay, now notice I have a fraction divided by another fraction. That means I can simplify this by keeping my numerator. I keep my numerator and I multiply by the reciprocal of the denominator. So that means flipping it. Take the denominator, that becomes your numerator. Take the numerator and that becomes your denominator. And when I do that, I can see that I can simplify 3 over 3 and that makes 1. And I'm left with this numerator, negative square root of 3 minus 3 over this denominator, 3 minus the square root of 3. Remember, we cannot have square roots in the denominator, so we need to rationalize. And in this case, I can rationalize if I multiply both the top and the bottom by the conjugate of the denominator. So the conjugate of this denominator is 3 plus the square root of 3. I multiply both the numerator and the denominator by that conjugate. Okay? So here's what we end up with. We end up with a multiplication in the numerator and the denominator of two binomials. So we're going to use FOIL. Negative square root of 3 times 3, that's negative 3 square root of 3. Negative square root of 3 times positive square root of 3, that's going to equal negative 3. Negative 3 times 3, that's going to be negative 9. And negative 3 times the square root of 3 is negative 3 square root of 3. That's what you get from your FOIL in the top. In the bottom, when I do FOIL, 3 times 3, 9. 3 times the square root of 3, 3 square root of 3. Negative square root of 3 times 3, negative 3 square root of 3. And negative square root of 3 times positive square root of 3 is negative 3. Now we simplify the top expression by combining like terms. So when I combine like terms, I see that negative 3 and negative 9 I can combine together, and that will give you negative 12. I can combine negative 3 square roots of 3 minus 3 square roots of 3, and that gives me minus 6 square roots of 3. That's your top or your numerator. In the denominator, I have 9 minus 3. Those are like terms, so I can combine that, and that makes 6. And then 3 square root of 3 minus 3 square roots of 3, that just gives you 0. So you end up with this top expression over everything over 6. Your final answer should be simplified to lowest terms. So I notice that this fraction, I can break up into two fractions. I can rewrite this whole thing as negative 12 over 6 minus 6 square root of 3 over 6. All I did was separate the fraction so that I can simplify it. Negative 12 over 6 becomes negative 2 minus minus, And then 6 and 6 I can cancel, make it a 1, and I'm left with square root of 3. And this is your final answer. I hope you understood. If you didn't, just hit rewind. You might have a little confusion here in the FOIL. Remember, just a reminder, whenever you multiply square root of 3 times itself, that will equal the square root of 9, which is in turn equal to 3. That's why I got this 3 here. That's why I got that 3 here. It's just negative because a positive times a negative is negative. Okay? There you have it. I'll see you in the next video for more examples.